So you and I have been together 20 years.
20 years.
First went on our first date.
Long time.
We're officially together.
And it shows.
And I mean, we became parents after knowing each other like 18 months. I do think that we have neglected our one-on-one relationship a little bit.
Should I be worried?
No.
This is cause for concern right now. Here's my advice to younger couples. If you're out there thinking about getting married or you're on the cusp of actually getting married, maybe reconsider.
All kinds of stuff went wrong at our wedding. I mean, geez. I'm going to say something kind of controversial here.
Totally on board with what you're saying, but I will disagree with you slightly. What I'll say is that...
Oh, wait, I'm not done yet.
Okay, continue.
I don't think that there's anything wrong.
Ooh, spicy.
I don't know.
Life isn't perfect. The world isn't perfect. Our relationship isn't perfect.
Right.
People will ask us whether or not we get into arguments. It's
Yeah,
probably because
of course
we
we do.
We get along so well. We genuinely do.
Most of the time.
Best friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely no doubt.
But friends fight too.
Doesn't mean Melissa doesn't piss me off every now and again. No.
Well, you're the one that... Your goal should never be to have a happy marriage. But for the record, I've always been really happy with you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Cheers, Mama.
Cheers.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Love you so much.
You too.
And everybody will be happy. First of all, welcome. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. You will notice that at the back of our table here,
I decorated.
minus the lack of decor that is up on the wall that everybody points out. We're getting there. We're working on it. I promise you one day it'll be glorious. But in the meantime, we have just some little decorative hearts in a jar, red jar.
This is the pointless decor that just drives you crazy. But I felt like in the spirit of Love Day, we're going to do some hearts like a kindergarten classroom.
Love Day. I like it.
Yeah.
What is the history behind Valentine's Day? Question for you. Do you know?
St. Valentine's.
Elaborate.
He was a Catholic
I actually have no idea.
and a saint. He was a really good guy.
What does that have to do with love specifically?
I don't know. I actually don't know the history of Valentine's Day.
Me neither.
Okay, good.
Shame on us. Well prepared.
Well, we're not here to teach a history lesson. I mean, really, Valentine's Day has just become this very hallmark excuse to sell stuff, chocolates, roses.
That tends to be the way that I
Teddy
look at
bears.
it. But it's very pessimistic and negative, so I try not to bring it up. I do love you, though.
Oh, that's nice. But you love me every day. So Valentine's Day was never a big deal for us when we were dating or before we had kids. But now it's just kind of a fun thing to celebrate with the kids. It's always just been about the kids for us.
It has absolutely become a family holiday in our case.
Yeah.
And we have the Valentine tree up in our living room,
Yes.
which very closely resembles a Christmas tree. You actually wouldn't notice the difference.
I don't know why you think it resembles it. Is it because it is our Christmas tree?
Yeah, after Christmas, you may notice if you watch our videos over on the Good Simple Living side of things that our Christmas tree becomes a Valentine's Day tree.
It does.
Kind of like at like New Year's-ish.
Yeah, that happened when the very first year we lived in the tiny home, because normally I am like, there is a schedule for decorations. And New Year's Day, the tree comes down. But in the tiny home, we had this tiny little skinny pencil tree, they call them. And Kieran, Eli, and Kaimani did not want to take the tree down on New Year's. So after I took all the ornaments off, they got all desperate and they cut out like paper hearts and stuff. And they were like, look, Mom, it's for Valentine's now. We have to keep it up. And so we did that year. And then the next year, Kira made like a bunch of felt hearts and stuff when she was doing all her needle felting. And hence the tradition of the Valentine's tree. So now we have full Valentine's ornaments for it, lights, a tree topper.
Our family's weird. Needless to say.
Our family loves an excuse to celebrate.
It's just so funny
We'll
when everybody
celebrate
comes over. When somebody comes over and they see the tree, they're like,
Oh.
how long you leaving that up? And we're like, well, it's not Valentine's Day. And we have to explain it. And then they just give us an even crazier look.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that doesn't clear it up.
It's always fun.
Yeah, so we decorate for Valentine's Day, and then Valentine's Day has just kind of become like a family date thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go out and do something fun. We used to go bowling and stuff like that. But now it's turned into like a make a fancy dinner or heart pizzas or something, and then family movie night. And that's what
When
we
have
do.
we ever done a fancy dinner?
We've never done a fancy dinner, but the kids talked me into buying like these really overpriced crab this year.
What?
Yeah, so we're doing like Dungeness crab.
This is all news to me.
I know. That's what happens when you take Kaimani to the grocery store. So anyway, we're having crab.
Oh,
The house is going to smell
delicious.
No. No.
I prefer to keep it as a family holiday for us. It
Yeah.
works for us. Again, it's non-traditional, but we are a very non-traditional family. And besides that, kind of like you referenced a second ago, I really don't like the over commercialization of the holiday. It kind of, if anything, for me, it just takes away from ultimately what it's supposed to represent.
Well, my mom always made a big deal out of it growing up. And it was always like, she didn't for my dad. She didn't get my dad anything for Valentine's Day. But like for us, she would bake us a heart cake every day, or not every day, every Valentine's Day. And we were able to eat cake for breakfast on Valentine's Day. And then she would make us like a sweatshirt back when puffy paint was really cool. She would buy like a plain white or pink sweatshirt. And my mom was very, very artistic. And she would write our name on it, puffy paint, like Melissa. And then there would be heart over the eye. And then one year she made this whole striped heart that was gigantic, and it was puff paint. And then it had hearts going down the sleeves. And she decorated our kids' shoes.
Kids' shoes?
Yeah, my kids.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And I got to go to school, second grade, decked out in my puffy paint, shirt made by my mom. And the other kids were like, oh, you have the best mom.
They were like, nerd alert.
No. And she would make us a Valentine bag in the mornings filled with like all these Valentine treats, and always a teddy bear from Hallmark. Every Valentine's Day, Hallmark would release a new bear, and we got to bring the bear to school.
You had a far more charmed childhood than I did. Again, I was raised by a single father. So for me, the stereotypical Valentine's Day was like, go to school, get some of those horrible chalky hearts with the messages on them, and maybe a couple girls in your classroom will send you a note.
So remember how exciting it was for Valentine's Day as a little kid, though, because you would decorate the shoebox?
No, I don't.
You didn't decorate a shoebox
No, we
and then
didn't do
exchange
anything.
Valentine's?
Literally in my household, Valentine's Day growing up.
at
In
school.
Like a diorama? Is that what you're describing right now?
You decorated a shoebox, and then everyone brought Valentines, and then you went around and you gave everyone a Valentine in their shoebox.
I don't remember that. I remember.
What kind of school did you go to?
Hawaii Public School, represent. Shout out 808. Chee-hoo.
They do better.
No, I think we had, I remember like little gift bags in a couple of my elementary school classrooms. And then like to make things fair and equitable for everyone, it was like everybody got one. And then if you wanted to like trade notes privately, you could. And I don't know, this was a long time ago. How do you remember these things?
Because Valentine parties were a big deal in school. And then you would get your class list with all their names, and then you would go to the grocery store and you would pick out what Valentines you were going to give everyone. And then you would make sure you didn't give the boys any of the lovey-dovey ones. So you would have to write specific ones.
It's an interesting point. Do you think that men and women view Valentine's Day very differently?
Yeah, it was an event.
Depending on the stage of life you're in, I feel like. Because there's definitely a lot more pressure when you're like in your early 20s to come through and make sure that you're doing something special and memorable.
And then I think once you're married, now there's always exceptions where people still may make a big deal out of Valentine's Day. But I feel like if you go out to Valentine's Day dinner, you're going to see a lot of young couples out. You're not going to see a lot of older married couples. They're like,
have we ever done that?
No.
Not really, huh?
No.
Reason being?
It's stupid. I agree that it's stupid. I am on the same page as you. But for the kids, it's fun. And I think with our kids not going to school, I feel this immense pressure to make sure that their childhood is still magical and has these memorable little parties and reasons to celebrate that you get in school.
Yeah.
So they're really looking forward to Valentine's Day.
I'm sure they are, because you've made it a very special traditional thing. You've set a high bar.
Yeah, I expect them to carry, like my mom did it with us, and then I'm pretty sure at least our girls will continue that with their kids.
No, that's great. I'm glad you do that with the kids. But yeah, for me, you said it was stupid. I think it's great to take aside some time or a day to celebrate with your loved one, with your spouse, in our case, to, just stay connected and remind each other how much you care for one another and all that. It's great, but we really have never partaken.
I feel like you just don't like to be told when to do it. Like,
I don't like the pressures that come along with it. Like, you better do this. This is the designated special day. You better make it special. Yeah, the only day we ever really go out on an annual basis is our anniversary, which I think is great because it's for us. It's our special day. Nobody else is aware of it, aside from the kids. But that's when you and I usually go out and have a nice dinner for once. I feel like
if you're not celebrating your anniversary, you're not putting any effort into your marriage at that point, and like you need to reevaluate. Like you should at least be going out on your anniversary. You need to acknowledge that day and celebrate another year of partnership.
So you and I have been together 20 years now, and in that time, like we've said repeatedly now, we've never really gone out of the way to make sure that we are checking this obligatory box of making sure that you do things that the standard couples are supposed to do. In fact, people have expressed some concern with us when it comes to those types of situations, because we've always chosen to do things collectively together as a family, or just to forego it entirely because we're people who are very dead set and focused on one thing at a time.
Right.
I would say. And to us, it was always more important to save money rather than go out on this special day that everybody goes out on, and to spend $300 for a single dinner. It was like, no, I can pocket that $300 and put it towards something that we need over in Idaho.
Yeah.
That's always
it was
been the
always
case.
about Idaho.
Completely.
Yeah. There was like the Idaho piggy bank, and then.
Do you regret that decision at all, or the fact that we've done that?
No, I don't
neither.
because now we're 40 years old and we're here, and we made the dream happen through that discipline and through that sacrifice, and by not spending money on things that we didn't need. But I do think that we have neglected our one-on-one relationship a little bit. And I don't think it was due to saving money or anything like that. I think we just became...
Should I be worried?
No.
This cause for concern right now.
No, but I mean, like, for me personally, I immersed myself into motherhood so early on. I mean, we became parents after knowing each other like 18 months. And then, you know what I mean? Like, we hadn't been together very long, and we became parents, and then
It's never been the top priority at any given time.
we didn't do the traditional, like, we dated for 2 years, and then we had this like whole romantic engagement. We went around and we tasted cake and we picked out dresses, and it was all about you and I. It was...
Wait, what? When did we do that?
We never did.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
what
I was
I'm
gonna say,
saying.
yeah, we didn't do
and
that.
then we got married, and it was just us. And then we went on this honeymoon, and it was all about you and I, and being together and getting to know one another. We
didn't do any of that.
Skipped that. Like,
For the same reasons, because from day
Yeah.
one, we have been on the same page about, hey, let's save money and let's put that money and all of our efforts toward trying to make
Yeah.
this vision, this dream that we have for ourselves happen from the very jump. I mean, we got married in Vegas on a package deal at the Mandalay Bay. We literally paid for a package. You got your ceremony, everything necessary for the ceremony, your photographer.
it was $2,700, and that was
everything. Package deal.
It wasn't the premium package, because I wish I had just paid for this stupid premium package. It was like $3,600,
Yeah.
and you actually...
Hey, that was a lot of money at the time. That was a ton of money.
I was like, you got the like the digital copies of your photos, which
Yeah.
we don't have.
No.
I really wish we did.
Me too.
So, is that worth the extra $900? Yes. In retrospect,
Mistakes were made.
yes, mistakes were made, but it was $2,700. They married someone there every 55 minutes. I'm not...
It was like, hurry up.
Yep.
Hurry up and get
I
married.
remember running because you and I like went up to we didn't even do the whole like don't see the bride before that.
No.
So
You were getting ready across the hallway from me.
Yeah, and then we were in the same room, and I was trying to grab my dress. We were running to the venue because we were supposed to be there. You're supposed to report 20 minutes before your ceremony.
And it wasn't your dress. Whose dress was it?
I borrowed it from my sister.
That's how cheap we were and are.
So I was like, I could go get like a prom dress or something for $100 or whatever. Or my sister, she splurged on her wedding dress, and it was this beautiful Jessica McClintock, like $5,000 beaded dress.
I don't know who that is, but yeah, hey, if you're gonna borrow one,
It's a designer.
that was a nice one.
And even though it's not what I would have picked out, because it was very form fitting, and it wasn't like I would have picked out something more vintage, I guess. But I was like, it's free.
Price
and
is right.
And it's sparkly and pretty. And so I just asked her if I could borrow it, and I just had to have it dry cleaned.
It worked out, and hey, look, we still ended up married. In
I
the
know.
end.
So it turns out that you don't need to spend all this money on your wedding. You don't need to go out and buy a $5,000 dress.
We're very simple people.
Yeah, and that works. I think as long as you're on the same page. And
I think
it's
as long
not.
as you're on the same page. However, my recommendation would be, here's my advice to younger couples if you're out there thinking about getting married or you're on the cusp of actually getting married, is do not blow tens of thousands of dollars as you are trying to get your life started with your spouse on a single ceremony that you will have very fuzzy memories of, as will all your guests. Just maybe reconsider. If you want to do it and you have the means to do it,
reconsider.
have at it. But for us, we were a single income household at the time. I was a new police officer, not making much money. We had actually already purchased, because we do things backwards, a home for ourselves prior to being married. And you know what? $3,500 was a lot of money at the time. And, you take everything into account. And I don't want to make myself sound like a total cheapo, but I bought you the nicest solitaire ring and diamond that I could possibly afford at the time.
You bought me a real ring, though.
It was
That was
adorable.
nice.
It was adorable.
It was.
We gradually upgraded over time, but it's still nothing that's all that impressive. In fact,
It's
you're
the
not
same-
even wearing it today.
I know. I
Just
wear
wanna
a
point
rubber
out.
ring now that I paid $24 for because it's safer for construction.
Speaking of, you know where I got my wedding ring for our
eBay.
ceremony? eBay. You know how much it costs?
You know who else got their ring on eBay?
Smart people.
Mila Kunis and what's his name?
Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher. I can't say his name right.
It's Kutcher. You had it.
They got their rings on eBay, and they kind of have the similar story of like, we didn't spend all this money, and they're celebrities,
multimillionaires. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, right? I mean, like, look, we're still married.
Yeah,
I have
with our
a
rubber
silicone
rings.
ring that cost me $20. You were wearing one too because it's just more conducive to our lifestyle currently. But yeah, it's just another one of those things to where I think people get duped into spending $3,500 on flowers for your ceremony, and you need to rent out this massive venue for your reception. And we had our reception in our.
When did that happen? I mean, when did people start getting married like they're royalty?
I don't know. I think it goes along with everything else. You know, we've seen these weird evolutions where like there's this massive sense of entitlement with people. And I get that it's a special day, no doubt it is, but the amount of money that you spend on your wedding ceremony does not equate to the level of joy and happiness that you will subsequently feel. It doesn't. You can make a day very, very special and keep it incredibly simple, as was the case for us.
Yeah. And don't go into it thinking it needs to be perfect because stuff's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And you need to best advice I ever got going into my wedding was, as long as you're married at the end of the day, it was perfect.
And we were.
And that was the like best advice, because all kinds of stuff went wrong at our wedding. I mean, geez, don't even get me started.
A lot of things.
From like the days. Oh, jeez.
How about the cake?
I forgot the cake. I forgot to order a cake. I mean, all the hustle and bustle of like flying to Las Vegas, having a 2-year-old.
Non-traditional.
Yeah. Trying to keep 50 family members happy, because we said, we're not doing a wedding. We're just going to get married in Vegas. If you want to come, come. Well, 52 people came, which like
awesome.
our whole family came, and our
great.
friends, and it was really fun. And the cool thing about that is you kind of weeded out the people that didn't really want to come to your wedding because they had to buy it. You had to buy an airline ticket and whatever. So if they showed up, they really wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And really
appreciate it. It was awesome.
Everybody was there that was really dear to us. And, in that hustle, I forgot to order a cake because we rented out a restaurant and we were just doing like a
portion of a restaurant.
Yeah. We rented out like the big banquet hall in this Italian restaurant.
It was a room.
It was a room. And we said, we just picked 2 things off their menu, and we're like, on the wedding, it was
chicken or steak.
And that was it. And so, because those were like, both of those meals were like $24. So each guest per head was $24. And
but everybody was happy with that.
Everyone, yeah, it was totally fine. And we decorated the tables, and then there was like this cake table they set out. And my friend was like, who's bringing the cake? And I was like, oh, I forgot a cake. And this is literally the night before. We went there late to decorate the tables. And I was like, I have no cake. So my dad ran to Safeway and was like, we need a wedding cake like right now. And the lady's like, okay. And she literally just took round cakes and stacked them because she had different, and she had to like frost a small one. I think it was like a baby smash cake or something that she stuck on the top. And it was just white. And then he's like, the colors are white with black, and they're doing like a Vegas theme. So we had like Lucky in Love was kind of our theme. And we had like little
dice on there.
We had poker chips and like like the Queen of Hearts cards. And we made it fun, like a Vegas-y theme thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, she took some liberties, and she made the cake white with black and red, big piping. I mean, black piping like you wouldn't believe. She, instead of white, went around the edges with black, and then the big black swirls. It was the ugliest wedding cake I've ever seen in my life.
I didn't have a problem with how it looked. It didn't look like a wedding cake, but the funniest part of that frosting was what?
The funniest part of the frosting was that there was so much dye in it that it dyed all of our guests' teeth purple. I mean, purple. And everyone's like, thanks for that.
Hey, but it was classic. See, and it wasn't like a permanent thing. It's just while you were eating it, you had like bluish purple teeth. It was funny.
It was the ugliest cake I've ever seen. And it kind of made me love it more because it was such a funny story. And instead of being like, this is the ugliest cake, my wedding day's ruined, we just laughed.
Yeah, you roll with the punches.
Yeah.
It was genuinely funny.
It was
and memorable.
Fun.
And special.
Yeah.
So I'm saying. Doesn't require money per se.
Right. And then, all of our friends rented out because we didn't have a dance reception because it was a restaurant. And so we decided we're going to rent this VIP room at this dance club and get bottle service. And we're going to all go out.
VIP would be a good thing.
That actually sounds good
in a room with
right
some pies.
Just all the pies. So we were supposed to go out, and my purse went missing. It was your mom grabbed my purse and took it back to her hotel room. And I didn't have my ID. And we couldn't find it, and no one knew who had my purse. And so we thought that the restaurant staff had taken it
Right.
because it was sitting there, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And she thought it was like your little sister's purse or something. And so it was gone. We didn't discover it till the next day. So we, instead of going out, our friends went out dancing on our wedding night.
Yeah.
You and I went back to the hotel room to cancel all our credit cards, and then we just went to bed.
We just go to bed, but it was nice because you and I had the evening to ourselves. So
Yeah, you were all happy. You were like, this is so much better. In our
it was, again, in a weird way, and not to spin it, but it made me, I remember, I vividly recall being like, no, this is great. And this is how it should be. We shouldn't be,
out dancing to
side-
get on up and shake
yeah, we
that
shouldn't be
booty.
sidetracked and distracted. It was awesome that you and I got to spend our wedding evening together alone.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's something I'll always remember.
Yeah.
So it worked out in the end.
Yeah, Nevaeh slept in my parents' room that night. So
Yeah.
it was our first night away from her, and she was 2 doors down.
Yeah.
And that was like anxiety for us.
No, it was good times. But, again, lesson to be learned there is it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need to dump a bunch of money into it. And you have to learn to roll with the punches and realize that mishaps happen.
Yep.
And when they do, just embrace it.
Yeah. So you and I have been together 20 years.
20 years.
20 years in September will
Yeah.
be from when we first went on our first date.
Long
And
time.
we're officially together.
And it shows.
like in our faces.
In our face, in our skin, our body,
Speak for yourself.
the usual stuff. No, you look great. You actually aged really like a fine wine. Seriously. No, I tell you all the
It's
time. This isn't just for the
Day.
podcast. This isn't just for the cameras. How often do I tell you that?
You are a fine wine.
No, I think personally you look better today than you did back then.
Did at 25? That's very, very sweet of you.
Dead serious. Seriously, we've been through a lot, and there's been a lot of stress along the way, and it's taken us a long time to find a stability in our life. And I think now that we have it, we're both, although we have aged tremendously, we are both I feel like our stress levels are down tremendously, and it shows. It reflects.
Like that phone call we were on the other day when I was kind of wondering, what is the difference between like younger people and then people after 40? And I think after 40, you just sort of stop caring
Yeah.
about the opinions of other people.
Oh, that happened for me a long time
I
ago.
know.
But yes, even more so now.
But there's peace in that because you learn through life that you're never going to make everyone happy. And so just be you, and you learn to be very comfortable in who you are.
Yeah, I agree completely.
there's
There's a
a-
lot of self-actualization that happens
Yeah.
I feel like at this stage of life, to where you're still very able-bodied. You have some degree of wisdom, and yeah, you just become very comfortable in your own skin. That's definitely the case for me.
Yeah, a lot of people say their 40s were their absolute best decade.
Makes sense.
I hear that from so many people, and we're just starting that decade. So I'm really, really excited to see where it goes, and because I feel like we're settling into our own now.
Yeah,
We're not on this uphill climb. We're not
right.
like racing towards some destination. We're settling into where we wanted to be.
Our 20s were all about survival and proving to ourselves that we were capable. I feel like this is the way I viewed it anyway. There was a lot of news. There was a lot of firsts. There was a lot of learning how to be a parent, learning how to be a homeowner, learning how to operate in your career for myself,
Yeah.
learning how to balance all of those things simultaneously. A lot of work, a lot of looking forward, a lot of saving, a lot of, setting goals for yourself. In our 30s, I feel like was a lot of work. Yeah, you are now comfortable in where it
Yeah,
is that you
a
are
lot of
for
work
the most part, but you better be busting your buns, because this is the last decade where you're going to, physically feel capable and still have this really high level of energy to get stuff done and start
Yeah.
checking those boxes. And that was definitely the case for us there too. We had rental properties. We had a larger property where we taught ourselves a number of skills prior to moving out here. We established this goal. We started working our way to achieve this goal, dream that we've had. We busted our butts to build this, invest our dollars wisely. I was going to say assets, to establish assets, invest our money very wisely. And we're finally around, I feel like we're emerging now in our 40s. And it's been an interesting journey, but I love the way you put that. And I think this decade will be one that we both find, hopefully, very enjoyable and satisfying.
It's going to be a lot of changes, but I think instead of like trying to resist them, you have to just learn to embrace them and
Which
and
isn't
celebrate them.
It's not my strong suit by any means, but
No.
I don't know, even with that, I feel like I've because I've had to do it, on so many occasions to this point, that
in this decade, all 4 of our children will be adults.
and that's what I'm saying. I don't like those changes, but I feel
Yeah.
like it's unavoidable. And there have been so many instances in the past now to where it's served as like repetitions for what is to come in the future. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, in this decade, 40 to 50, are all 4 of our children will be adults at the end of it.
Terrifying.
We will probably become grandparents in this decade.
Also terrifying.
Yeah. And who knows where like all of this goes and what our lives look like even professionally at the end of this decade.
Yeah.
Like we have no idea.
You know, my biggest takeaway is from life over the last 20 years, especially, is that you really aren't in control. In our case, you can make all the plans that you want. You can think that you are in control. That's not the case at all. You are just along for the ride, and it takes acknowledgement and a lot of faith in our case to take those clues that are given to you along the way, and to obey and to listen and to trust. Yeah. And it's very reassuring, but it's scary at the same time. But it's worked out so well for us, and I so strongly and firmly believe that is something to be relied upon. Is that faith and that guidance along the way.
Yeah, I think things I've learned too would be like if somebody doesn't value you or value what you bring to something, don't try to convince them.
Don't force it.
I used to always try to like prove myself, and because like when you're going for like job interviews and things like that, you'd have to try to present yourself. Or like when you're dating, you know, you have to try to like prove yourself. You know, you want this person to like you. You want this person to hire you. And now I've learned like if somebody doesn't see the value in you or what you have to offer, don't force it. Like it's not meant to be. Leave it alone, and it's never going to end well if you have to convince them. So just walk away, which we did recently.
Unfortunately, yeah, we have had to do that recently. You want to touch upon that? You want to explain that one?
Yeah, I'll touch about So we announced at the very beginning that we were working on a partnership that was really exciting. I mean, really exciting to me. And it ended up not working out because after 4 months of like legal and all this stuff, we just started feeling more and more and more like
not a good fit.
Like it wasn't a good fit, and like they didn't see the value.
Even though it really could have been
us,
a great fit.
I think it probably would have been, but I don't think they saw the value like we saw the value. And then it just started not feeling right. So like a week ago, we contacted them and we said, you know what? We think we're going to end this process. And that was really, really difficult to do because I was really excited about it.
Yeah, so was I. And I thought it was going to be a great fit initially. And it just turned out that wasn't the case. And that's okay.
And I think it was just not meant to be. I think that was kind of God's way of protecting us. Like, hey, he kept giving us little like, it's not right. It's not right.
Right.
And so I think ultimately, like, although I was disappointed and it was a hard thing to do, like, I think ultimately it's going to lead to a far better.
I completely agree. And I'm still grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Happy to be making these connections. And yeah, it's just kind of the way things go. But like you just said, and like I said a second ago, it's just, you have to be able to read the signs and clues and know when something isn't a good fit ultimately, and stop trying to force it. And so we've moved on, and I don't know how much detail we can get into with all this, but we are still making efforts and strides to try to really build what it is that we are working on here. And I think that ultimately will work out very favorably. We've had a lot of interest in people that are wanting to partner up. And this is kind of the ugly side that nobody really cares all that much about. So I'm going to go on here. But yeah, we are still in the works with trying to really establish ourselves here with this show and what it is we're trying to do. Yeah, it's still our passion project, and we still really want it to succeed, and we will see if that is meant to be or not. Absolutely. So what has been the biggest takeaway for you over the last 20 years that we have been together, specifically with regard to our relationship? What's your massive takeaway? We've learned a lot. I think when we both went into the relationship, like all young people, we were very self-centered. You know, when you're young, everything kind of revolves around you. Mm-hmm. All of your thoughts revolve around your future, right? Your friends, the boys you want to date, like everything is like, what do I want? Where do I want to go? And then when you get married, all of a sudden it's this partnership. And I think there's a learning period of still being kind of self-centered and then having to shift that into, and I don't mean selfish. I just mean, like, I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. The embodiment of you no longer being a singular entity. You're not single anymore. You are a package deal. Right. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. And every decision you make is not me anymore. It's a we, us, our. And
I think that that's where a lot of young people fail in that first 5 years.
Or struggle, just struggle.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some that just walk away or they're like, this is too hard. I don't
Yeah,
want to do this.
it's a transitionary thing.
It is.
I mean, we've all seen those relationships where you can tell that one person is more bought in than the other, and it's a very uncomfortable thing. And I think, again, that's a situation where you should maybe consider just at the very least, reevaluating and reassessing.
Well, it's hard when you're already married. So
I'm not saying when you're married. Hopefully, it hasn't gone to that extent
Yeah.
because it's tragic when it is a marriage, especially when it involves children.
Yeah.
But there's always more. I mean, not always, but there's very oftentimes you see it. I think people recognize it when somebody's more bought into a relationship or a marriage, and that can't be the case. You have to have buy-in from both sides. Both people have to be fully committed, and I think that's the way you make such great strides in your life and your relationship together.
Well, I think it's challenging too, because when you're trying to think like one entity, when you're trying to act like one entity, like I'm coming at it from a very feminine point of view and you're coming at it from a very masculine point of view.
That's the beauty of it though.
It is, but it's also the challenge of it because when you're trying to make a decision for us, you're coming at it from your point of view.
Yeah.
And when I'm trying to make a decision for us, I come from a very different place. And so I have to try to think about what would you think of things, and like that. I think that's a lot of times where things clash.
Yeah, but that's why I would say that's where the beauty comes in, because you have to go out of your way to really be conscious of that, striking that balance and that sense of compromise in everything you do.
Well, I think it becomes easier. Like we've been together for 20 years. Like I can hardly remember days where like there was before you and then there was after you, and they're like two different lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I was two different people. Because then once I was with you, it was us.
So much better. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I've never had a moment of pause.
No, but even when I say things like compromise, like there are still day-to-day, moment-to-moment things where both of us have to compromise on something. As she points to the hearts at the back of the table. But see what I'm saying? Did I say anything about that? Did I express any frustration?
It's Valentine's Day.
No, did I say anything? I said nothing. And even though I would never place this on the table, I'm happy that it's there and I'm happy that you like it. And while maybe subconsciously it is a compromise on my part, I never feel like I'm giving anything up. Do you know what I mean? I never feel like there's anything that I have to forego and I'm just bitter and upset about it. That's never the case. Very, very rarely, I'll say, is that the case.
Yeah, I would say like that would be my biggest advice to people in any relationship is don't view it as, I'm going to say something kind of controversial here. So something that I've never really loved is girls trips, girls nights, guys poker night and stuff like that, where like the wife can't go. It's never been our thing that we've ever done. And anytime that we've ever gone to a party, we've actually been criticized for standing there together. Like, why don't you go sit with the girls? And why don't you go sit with the guys? I like to go sit with the guys. One, because you're there. Two, because that's where the whiskey is. The girls are always drinking like fruity drinks and like the guys over there having, you know, like great aged whiskey on ice. And I'm like,
I will.
over there.
I'm totally on board with what you're saying, but I will disagree with you slightly. And what I'll say is that.
Oh, wait, I'm not done yet.
Okay, continue.
I don't think that there's anything wrong.
Ooh, spicy.
I don't. It's Valentine. I don't think that there's anything. Before you guys get all mad, because I already know where this is going. I don't think there's anything wrong with going out with your girlfriends, but when you start hanging out with a group of women, and you've got a lot that have their own marital issues or are going through divorces and things like that, those little things and the conversations can poison your own marriage. So if you're hanging out with like 4 divorcees and everyone's like, oh God, these guys and da-da-da, and they're flirting with men and you're this married woman, and I just don't think that it's conducive for a healthy marriage. If I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend money and I'm going to take a day to find a babysitter and everything like that, I'm going out with you.
I agree with you completely on that note. What I was going to say is that it probably varies to certain extents from couple to couple. And if you and your partner both agree that it's fine to take a day out of the week for yourself to go hang out with your girlfriends or your guy friends, fine, great. That's just not something that we've ever done. And I think we've always viewed it very differently because, again, we are each other's comfort. Yeah. And some people view that as being very unhealthy and weird. But it's what brings us joy. You're what makes me happy, and vice versa for sure. So
I think the reason that I find it to be something that you need to keep in perspective, or like, again, if I had 5 girls that were like, hey, we're going to go get dinner. Do you want to come? I'm not going to be like, no, that's not healthy. Like, yeah, I'll go, but I'm not going to do it every week. I'm not going to go. Well, I probably wouldn't. I mean, do I already have my sweats on?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going. So anyway, if it was like pre-planned and for some reason I didn't come up with an excuse to get out of it and I went, I don't think that's unhealthy. But if it's like every Friday night I go out with my girls and you can't come and you don't know where we're going and we're going out and we're drinking and I don't know.
Let's put it this way: if you were presented with a hypothetical of stay home in your sweats and watch a movie with daddy and the kids, or go out with those same 5 girls that you just referenced a second ago out somewhere in Sandpoint or wherever at somebody's house, which would you rather do?
I would already be on the couch with my wine. Being like,
this is what I'm saying, because I think I'd make the same decision, but that's just us. You have to realize that not everybody is that way, and that's fine.
So the thing is that we are told as a society, especially our young people, of like, you have to keep your independence. So I don't think there's anything wrong with going out with your girlfriends. I guess I didn't word that right. But when you're doing it in an independent way, like I have to go do, our kids are jumping on the trampoline
just
right outside the window.
I was like, what is going on? Professional.
All of a sudden our kids are like, woo. When you go at it in an independent way, like I am going out with my friends or we go on a wild Vegas trip every year because I'm trying to maintain my independence. It's a mindset thing. So if you're going out just because you're getting a break from your kids and your husband's having poker night and you're going to go get dinner with your friends, there's zero wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But when you go at it with like he don't own me. I'm going out. I got my friends. Like
very selfish, self-centered mentality.
It's a different. Now you're no longer one unit in all that you do and in the ways that you think. You can still be a unit with your wife if you go out with your friends. That's fine. But when you're doing it to maintain your independence, separate from your marriage, I think that's where it causes damage. Okay, let me
piggyback off of what you just said, and it ties into what you just mentioned here a second ago with if you're out and about with your friends and you end up, like you use the example of hanging out with a bunch of divorcees, however you pronounce it, and everybody starts bad mouthing men or their partner. I don't think that there's a situation that ever justifies or warrants that. And I've been in those situations many, many times where a group of guys will get together when I was back at work, or I've had friends in the past where it was, the thing to do was to get together, vent about our partners or their partners, because I would never partake, because I just don't think there's ever a situation that makes it okay to make disparaging remarks of any kind about your wife. In my case, that's never something I would never badmouth you to anybody, and that's something that I would absolutely remain steadfast on. Like there's never an excuse that makes that okay,
right?
And it's so unfortunate that that's such commonplace, because I feel like that's men or women.
I think it poisons your relationship. So a lot of people are like, no, I just have to vent. Like I just need to call my friend and just bitch about my husband. Don't do that, because when you're putting that out, you can't take it back, for one. And this is your partner. This is this person that you're supposed to love. That this is someone that is supposed to be your own flesh. Mm-hmm. Would you do that to your children?
Never.
So why would you do it to your life partner and your spouse? And I think that's where it becomes poison, is when people go out and then they bash their own marriage. And even if you're listening to someone else complain about their marriage.
I've never liked that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. And it just puts a negative tone on the whole thing. And then you can go home and it does affect your own marriage, because your husband will do one of those same things and you're like, that does suck. It infiltrates your thoughts.
It just chips away at your relationship. Yeah, I've never, even when other people are doing it, I've never partaken. And it seems that so many do it with such a nonchalant attitude, where I've seen, people do this all the time. And I guess we do it casually, but I'm joking. People will crack a joke at the expense of their partner, right in front of their partner in a social setting.
Oh yeah, for attention.
To where it's like, there's a lot of truth behind it. You can tell that there's a lot of resentment behind it. Like when you and I do it, we're fair game, and I know you're joking and I'm joking. But it's always made me very uncomfortable. I've never understood that. It
totally depends on the joke.
And it's probably because we're so intense with I feel like we treat these types of situations, or just like our marriage and relationship, or like our role as parents, we take everything so seriously. I especially, like, I don't, again, I've said this on the podcast many times, I don't play when it comes to my family. Sorry. I'm willing to cut people a lot of slack in a lot of areas, and I have many times over the years, but when it comes to my family, when it comes to my wife, not happening. You're talking about, there are very few things in this world that I'd be willing to lose my life over, but you being my wife and them being my kids would be the two top things
Yeah.
that I would be willing to lay my life down for.
Yeah. And I think in our marriage and in our relationship, it's been a safe space, like, because
Don't use the term safe space with me.
well, it's been a
Safe environment.
well, okay, it's been an area where we can communicate openly, we can bicker, we can full on fight, which, it's happened, where we'll get really mad.
Argue.
No, we would not fight. We don't physically fight.
It's the police
but we
clarification
argue.
side of me.
I mean, we'll get into arguments
Yeah, we get
that
into
get
arguments
pretty heated.
all the time.
Yeah.
People will ask us whether or not we get into arguments. It's
Yeah,
probably because
of course we do.
We get along so well. We genuinely
Most of the
do.
time.
Best friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely no doubt.
But friends fight too.
Doesn't mean Melissa doesn't piss me off every now and again. No.
Well, you're the one that makes me mad. So, yeah. But it happens, and especially
Sure.
we spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We work from home and we work together.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we work in our offices from home, like we don't have that. And so we're together a lot. So, I mean, just like siblings will fight. Like, we can get into a full argument and then I'll be like, do you want chicken for dinner? And you'll be like, no, I don't feel like chicken. I'll be like, what do you feel like?
Yeah, it's never a big deal. Again, we know what it is.
It's safe.
Yeah, and it rears its ugly head every now and again. And you should be able to hash out issues. I
Yeah.
feel like, but
We're humans.
life isn't perfect. The world isn't perfect. Our relationship isn't perfect,
Right.
but it's great.
Yeah.
And in those instances where we get at each other's throat, like I said, it's
It'll
always
be-
very
it's
quickly
always
resolved.
over something so dumb.
Always
too.
over something stupid, and we are always very quick to move on
Yeah.
and not hold any resentment. In
I
fact, even
remember our
laugh about
first
it.
major fight.
You do?
Yeah, our first major fight. This is how long it took us to get into a major fight. I was pregnant with Kaimani.
What?
Yep. And we were going to Seattle from Vancouver to go to my baby shower for Kaimani. I was that pregnant with Kaimani. And this was when like stretch pants,
Oh my gosh.
just became like kind of in style again. And I was pregnant and I was like, elastic. And I got a pair and I was wearing like this dress and then I put them under it because it was kind of cold, but I wanted to wear this like little dress thing, tunic top, I guess. It was too short.
No, this story is already going to require some additional elaboration.
Oh,
here.
anyway, I was going to wear this and he was like, or you were like, your legs look like Peter Pan. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was all dressed to go to my baby shower. And you're like, what are you wearing on your legs? Are those tights?
You have tights.
Yeah. And I was like, they're stretch pants. You're like, why are you wearing those? And I'm like, why are you judging me?
Oh, this makes me sound like such an a-hole.
Well,
right
no,
now.
I mean, it was just like an observation. Like,
No, the thing
you're
I didn't
so
like
male,
about it.
you just think out loud.
The thing I didn't like about it was that this is when the entire like yoga pants trend started taking over
Yeah.
and women started wearing it. And
You ever tried them on? They're really
sorry, I'm going to
mad
state my
comfortable.
opinion on it. Even though I'm sitting here with like a fresh haircut and a brand new t-shirt, I'm not somebody who cares whatsoever about ordinarily what I wear. You guys see me on the main channel
You have
wearing
a Shave Ice t-shirt on that you got at a gift shop in Hawaii.
it's
my brand
though.
new
It's
t-shirt.
My brand new t-shirt.
From the
So
Shave
the
Ice place.
difference is that, or maybe I'm just an a-hole. I don't know.
I think
don't-
you kind of were being that day.
I
You
don't-
were in a bad mood and you were picking, and I was like super pregnant and I remember being like, what the bloody? Like, I was so mad. And we got into a yelling match.
I remember the argument.
Over
I don't remember.
stretch pants. I was like, you are so
Yeah,
rude.
again, the
You're not
stupidest
pregnant. And
things.
you're like, oh, I'm pregnant. I have to wear stretchy pants. And you were like, you're just trying to wear pregnancy
Yeah,
clothes.
I was mocking a pregnant woman. We heard her. That's me.
No, we got into this ridiculous fight. And I remember thinking like it was the first time we had ever yelled at one another. And like, you were like, you're acting like your dad. I remember something like that. Or
I said that?
something like that.
No,
And
I
I was
don't
like,
think I said that.
what? And like, we just got into like this massive fight over stretch pants. And it took us like 3.5 years of being together to get into this fight. And that's what caused it. Anyway, that was our first big fight.
Stupid stuff,
Stretch pants.
like you said.
Yeah. We've gotten into fights about like just the dumbest. It's never about anything serious. I can't remember ever getting in a fight about anything serious.
No.
Yeah. It's always something dumb. And I think a lot of people, that's their story where it's like someone didn't put the toaster away and then it turns into like a 3-day argument.
Yeah. No, but it does happen. And yeah, I don't know. Every time we get questions like that from people like, oh, do you guys get along so well? Do you ever fight? It's like, yeah, of course we fight.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
We're
100%.
together all the time. We built 3 structures together.
Show me 2 people who are together like 24/7 that eventually won't encounter some kind of a
Yeah.
conflict. Yeah. It happens.
Yeah.
And then you get the follow up to that of like, oh, why do you guys never like show, like, no, we're not going to show our fights.
You don't want
There
to
are certain
why
things
would
that
you want
are,
to see that?
there's a lot of things that are very off limits, but that's something that, we would never, of course, we're not going to record ourselves arguing with each other and then post that on the internet. It just,
that would be weird too, because
extremely
whatever
weird.
brings on an argument is always something very random when we're just like making breakfast or something. So why would you then get out the camera and film that? Like, wait, hold on, hold that thought. Let me get the tripod.
This has been a very interesting discussion about love and marriage, but I want to solicit those of you watching or listening out there to comment down below about your love advice. We've been together 20 years. A lot of you out there have been together much longer than we have. This is our advice. This is our opinion, really, that we're maybe dishing out to some younger folks out there, but it's what works for us. It's not maybe going to work for everybody, but let us know down below in the comment section what you think and how long it is you've been married, what's worked well for you.
Yeah. What is your number one piece of advice for a healthy, I'll say a healthy marriage, not a happy marriage?
Don't wear tights.
Have you, I wear them all the time now and you don't care. Now you're like, I like those pants.
Compromise, right? That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't seem like you're compromising when you're like, those ones look good.
It's just off-putting the first time you see it, okay? That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to justify it.
All right. Well, it's not like I looked great in my Humpty Dumpty physique at the time, so I could see why that was off-putting.
That was never the issue. That was never the issue.
So, yeah, I mean, I would just say that it's always been a safe place because to fight, to have stupid arguments, to be honest, to joke around, to be a mess, to be super sick in front of each other. You know, like you go through so many things when you live together. And it's like divorce has to be off the table. You can't even use that word or like throw it out because then it's always safe no matter what. Like you're stuck with me and we better figure this out or we're going to spend the next 50 years having the same stupid argument.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's hash it out now because we're not going anywhere.
I don't feel like people get divorced like they used to back when we were kids.
Yeah.
Or even before that. And I think the reason is, I think a lot of people treat it that way. And maybe if you are the byproduct of a divorce, as I am, because my parents got divorced, it's something that I'm very sensitive to. And like you just said, it's never been an option. Mm-hmm. When we got married, you know, I told myself, I'm like, oh, this is it. There's no out unless I kick the bucket or she does. Yeah. This is it for the rest of my life, for eternity.
Right.
So yeah, I think it makes it very easy to maneuver your way out of a situation or a marriage when you always are peeking over at that lifeline that's there and accessible to you at any given time. But if you just eliminate that from your available options, I think it makes a marriage far more smooth sailing than, you know, a lot of people are aware of. Yeah.
Like, I think it's a big fear of people's. And so they keep that lifeline and they keep that independence. They keep that separate bank account. They keep that separate.
It's so foreign to me.
I know. And, or like that separate group of friends where like the spouse doesn't even really know them. They're never invited. They, you know, like I have my friends, I have my money. I have my job that I go to that you are no part of. Like, and they live this separate life and then they come home and then they try to be married.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, again, maybe there are different folks out there and that works for them. I can't envision a scenario where that, again, it's that buy-in that I was talking about earlier. When you have one foot out the door and you're just dabbling your toe into your marriage. It's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be all in. So easy
to want to leave that way because you've got all this over here by yourself. And then when over here is making you miserable, which there's times in marriage where it's hard. And if this is making you miserable and then you have all this independence over here, it's so easy to bail.
Yeah, it's a package deal, baby.
Yeah.
Package deal.
You stuck with me even when I make you miserable. And I think like, so I was listening to Jordan Peterson and somebody asked advice on a happy marriage. And then everyone on the panel gave their advice about how to have a happy marriage. And then he was like, that's a stupid question. Because your goal, and I love that, he just like the person's like,
I respect it.
Yeah, and he was like, your goal should never be to have a happy marriage. Because if your goal is happiness, when you're not happy, which you're not going to be a lot of the time, and it may not even be due to your marriage, but there's miseries in life. There's trials in life. There's times and chapters in your life where you will be depressed and miserable and down. It can be the death of somebody. It can be your own illness. I mean, if you're fighting cancer or your mother just died or you lost your job or you went bankrupt, you know, there's miserable times in life. And if your goal for a healthy marriage is happiness and you're not happy, now you feel like your marriage is failing. Like, I don't think you should have to be happy all the time in your marriage as long as you're together. and you're working it out, and that's your safe space. So if everything's going wrong in my life, I might be feeling very unhappy. And even when I'm with you, I may still be feeling depressed and unhappy, but I'm not like, my marriage isn't happy right now. Therefore our relationship's failing. I don't think that's the case. And I think that was a really, really strong point to make, that through the trials, you should be together and you should be there for one another and come out of those trials. And that makes your relationship so much stronger.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah. So, but for the record, I've always been really happy with you.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's very reassuring.
I mean, there's been like little segments, like an hour here and there where I'm like, not happy with you. But I don't mean like in general. I just mean like,
No, we're very blessed people. We're very
are.
fortunate that we get along as well as we do. And
Yeah.
I think we have a very beyond similar outlook on how this is supposed to go and function. And it works very well for us. And I get that everybody's different, but I think that there are some very rigid, I'll say, baseline concrete concepts that you can apply to any relationship if you have any chance of really making it work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not always very easy to put your finger on it, but I think at the very least, you both have to be bought in. You have to be on the same page for the most part when it comes to most things. And you have to, like I said, commitment, it requires everything of you.
Everything.
Like you just said, good times, bad times, hard times, easy times, great times.
And don't keep track. For the love of God, people, don't keep track.
Yeah.
Don't keep track of wrongs, even though I'm still holding that stretch pant argument.
She says,
I need to let
20
that
years
go.
later.
I need to let it go. No, I'm
No,
not.
it's true. I think a lot of people will maintain a scoreboard in their minds.
Yeah. Like he did this and this and this and this. And I think it's very human-like to keep track of like the bad stuff and remember the negatives.
Agreed.
Instead of all of the positives.
Yeah.
And it's better, I think, just to not keep track of it. Don't be like, I do more around the house. And like, I think that's a huge argument for people.
You know how I tend to think of it? Again, as we are a cohesive unit, we collectively have this batch of things that need to get done around here. And as long as you and I collectively manage to hit on all of the points within that collective goals for the day, week, month, year, then we're good. And we usually make up for each other's shortcomings, like I've always said. And I think that makes for a very great, well-rounded situation. And hopefully that's something that people can forge over time with their partners.
Yeah, I think it's a really challenging thing when you have kids, especially when you first have
absolutely.
kids.
Because you're figuring it out.
Yeah, and there's never a time when the dad is doing as much as the mom with a newborn or even with a toddler. It's,
First to admit it.
It's just not going to happen. So if a woman is becoming discontented or feeling animosity towards her husband due to him not doing as much with the baby, well, that's just that chapter of life that you're in. Well,
and hopefully your male counterpart is offering up something else to make up for your own personal shortcomings with being so invested in the kids. It's I wouldn't say that it's fair to be like, oh, mom's busting her butt over here taking care of kids,
and dad's over
is
here
playing video games.
Right.
That's not contributing. That's no longer thinking that collective that mindset. Now you're acting as a selfish individual, indulging in something that brings you joy instead of
she's got the baby. No, that's not what I mean. But that's where like both partners have to be 100% in all the time.
Yeah.
And because there's definitely going to be times when you just can't. Like you're busy, you're tired, you're sick, you're working extra hard on a project at work. So there's times when you're not going to be able to be there 100% of the time, and then the other partner has to pick up the slack. But it needs to go both ways. But it's never going to be 50-50 all the time. And so you can't keep track because you're one unit, you're a team, and you're doing it for your family.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, let's wind this down.
All right.
Happy Valentine's Day, Mama. Love you so much.
You too. Love
Everybody
you.
out there, thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, well, I just noticed that 50% of you guys watching still aren't subscribers. I just got a little thing.
Is it 50%?
50% are not
better than it
subscribers.
was.
So it helps us tremendously if you guys subscribe, because that subscriber number really matters on podcasts, because it helps us book really good guests for you guys. So that's kind of the one, whenever we reach out to a guest, they're like, how many subscribers do you have? That's always the number one question.
Podcast game.
Yeah. So to continue bringing you guys really great guests and just be able to bring really interesting people on, it really helps us if you just hit that button.
Correct.
Cool.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great week. And we will see you next week here in New World Old Soul and over on Good Simple Living. Until then, you guys take care. Bye.
Happy Valentine's.